see this report? Gervonta Davis, Ryan Garcia, as people have been waiting for. Price got announced. $85 in the US, $84.99. And you said in Canada that converts to what, like $100 or so?
Yeah, pretty close, pretty close. Yeah, that'd be $100. I think they do, from what I remember, they just always give you the Canadian price. So I think that'd be like $100. That's going to be like a 99.99 fight here. You know what I mean?
Boy. Which some people apparently thought it was going to be that in the United States. So,
Yeah.
duck that. But just really quick, because we're going to talk about this fight leading up to it. I mean, you look at our YouTube, I was at the press conference and got a lot of content for the channel. Make sure you subscribe at TheMandatory with Bryan and Shantelle. Shantelle, what do you think about this just price? I mean, it's a lot. A lot of UFC cards these days go for 80, and here we have a fight that's going to be massive, one of the biggest fights of the year, no doubt. $85. Do you think this is reasonable, and is this something that you think is going to put off a lot of people?
I don't think it's going to put off a lot of people. I think $85 for Gervonta Tank Davis and Ryan Garcia, a fight that people have been talking about for years to get made, is finally happening. When does that happen in boxing, where we talk about a fight for a long time and it actually gets made, and gets made with two guys in their prime when they're still really, really young? Both guys are undefeated. When you take a look at this, and the fact that there's so much back and forth, both these guys know, well, Ryan Garcia knows how to really, really sell a fight. I think people for Tank know that he can knock out someone. He's like a blockbuster pay-per-view guy where there's going to be a Tank knockout possibly, so you want to go and watch Tank, right? Because he is that guy that I think a lot of people know that you're going to see a great finish. The storylines for this fight are absolutely magnificent. You even talk about, the weight that they're fighting at. Everything that goes into it, $85. I'm not mad at it because, like you mentioned, Bryan, it is arguably, and so far from what we know, if Spence and Bud doesn't get made anytime this year, this will be the biggest fight this year, because I don't think Canelo and Benavidez is happening this year. I think that might happen in 2024, not this year. So this is arguably going to be the biggest boxing fight this year. $85, I'm not mad at that. And I do have a question to ask you. Is this the biggest fight of this generation? Gervonta Tank Davis and Ryan Garcia that we've seen so far within the last 3 years. What do you think about, also keep in mind the different generations that are going to be watching this fight, the different eyes it's going to bring, because it's not going to just be diehard boxing fans for this one.
This is probably the biggest fight since, because to answer your question, the last 3 or so years, like, I mean, it's the pandemic, right? So
yeah,
we haven't gotten a ton of big fights
right.
during the pandemic. But to answer your question, I would say the last fight that was huge in this way was probably the rematch between Canelo Alvarez and Gennady Golovkin in 2018. Has there been a fight since then? Because that's really what I go back to when we're talking about magnitude. Has there been a fight since then that's going to potentially rival this? I'm not sure. I mean, well, Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder.
I was just about to say that. Yeah.
Yeah. Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder. The first two, there wasn't as much excitement for the third one. I think there was excitement. I don't think there was as much. It was to see if Deontay Wilder could get him back. But there were a lot of people who thought Tyson Fury beat him in the first one as well. That was called a draw.
Yeah.
I feel like there was definitely excitement for those two. The first one was, I believe, 2018. When was the first one? Let me actually look this up when I'm talking.
Yeah. But see, the thing where I would argue about that is Gennady Golovkin and Canelo Alvarez was massive. And I think for boxing fans, we wanted that fight for a very, very long time. However, for that fight, I don't think it still pulled in a bunch of boxing fans that weren't really boxing fans. The one fight that I always go back to,
I thought it did.
You know what? For me, and maybe it's because like I have a bunch of girlfriends and they're not really into boxing. I'm just going to be honest here. Neither of those fights were ones that pulled them in, except for Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury. That was one where people were like, okay, because we know Wilder, blockbuster guy, knocks out dudes, right? The one fight that for me, it was Manny Pacquiao and Mayweather. Like, that was massive.
2015.
That's still one of the biggest fights to ever happen.
This isn't going to be as big as that, though. I don't think
No,
so.
but
That's different.
I think it's similar in the sense that, like, listen, I'm just saying this. The ladies love Ryan Garcia. Okay, they just love him. Okay, he looks good.
And dudes love Tank Davis. Okay,
Exactly.
like,
And so I think there's gonna
and
be
I don't
like
even mean that in like a suspect way. I'm just saying, like, a lot of dudes I know, he's their favorite fighter or among their favorite fighters. It's
honestly, like,
also
for a
hella polarizing because I know a bunch of people who don't like Tank Davis either, but
it's love or hate.
polarizing sells. So
Yeah, it's love or hate. So I really think this Ryan Garcia fight is going to pull in fans that don't even watch boxing, that have maybe possibly never seen a boxing match on a level where it's like, you know how like Jake Paul has this type of fandom? Ryan Garcia has that type of fandom as well, where it's massive. It's beyond boxing.
yeah.
So that's why I think this fight is more massive than people think, because it's going to draw eyes. Like, people that have never seen a boxing fight are going to tune into this fight.
Okay, so Deontay Wilder, Tyson Fury, the first one was 2018. I was right. And the second one was 2020. I was right. I was trying to remember the third one. I wanted to say late 2020 or late 2021. It was late 2021. So right on that. Yeah, I would say that second Fury Wilder fight, which was 3 years ago, and it was also right before the pandemic. And I think that's why the memory gets a little fuzzy there, because it's like, wait, that happened in a whole different world, right? Before COVID was a thing in the United States. It was a thing in Asia. It wasn't a thing here, right? So I think with Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder, that was probably the last fight that I think will be that this will reach that territory, that Deontay Wilder, Tyson Fury rematch, that Canelo Alvarez rematch, so to speak. But yeah, that's where I'm at with Tank and Ryan. I think, and regarding the $85 price, because I didn't even get into this real quick before we wrap.
Yeah, you paying for it? You doing it? You dropping that 85?
Yeah, I'll watch it legally. I'll figure out a way to do that.
Yeah.
Look, 85 is steep, and you know, as a working class human being who freelances and who has several jobs, all of which doing this in media. So make sure you check out the page and subscribe, because
Please.
you're helping. You're you know, we're working on getting paid on doing this too, because this is literally what we're doing. We're not like, you know, people who don't know what the fuck they're doing. But regarding the price, like, yeah, I think it's justifiable. I also, you know, 85 is just a weird number. I feel like 80 would have sufficed, but okay.
I think if it was $100, people would have been, oh no, $100. So then they moved it over to 85, you know, because it would piss people off. If it was 100 USD. I'm not gonna lie to you. So I think 85, they're like, oh, I was expecting $100. And it's not. So I'm okay with this.
Maybe a shit ton of people are gonna pirate this fight because that's just the game. Like, especially now where there aren't as many watch parties as there used to be. There's something we talked about with Lou on the show a few episodes ago, because this isn't a podcast. I refuse to call it a podcast.
Go check the Lou episode out though, because he dropped some gems.
Yeah, and there's just not a lot of fight parties anymore. I don't feel like I don't have as many friends that like, yo, we go out and watch the fight, whatever the case may be. Like, people just like send links to each other and just keep it moving, you know. Or it's like you turn on whatever network it is on if you have it. But I think this will perform well. I just think like there are going to be a shit ton of people who pirate it, so like it could also perform better. But you know, $85, people are going to complain about it, and I get it also. But I also get it from the network's perspective. It's high for me, but like, this is a fight that's earned it, right? So I get it, right? It's part of the game. So let's move on.